Nitimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tan Maitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Savabhutam Hridayam Munimana Tusmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Prende Namaste Charanarvindam Tave Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're going to now go back to Sri Bhajan Rahasya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Lila Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Padasto Talsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitya Lila Bhavishta, Om Vishnu Padasto Talsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Jai. So, we left off at the very end of the chapter 3, the verse that began the chapter was Turnat Api Sunichena Turo Api Suhishtana. We've been going through the Sikshashtaka verses in order. Each chapter, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is presenting each verse of the Sikshashtaka in two ways. One way is the progression for the sadhak, one beginning from the stage of Shraddha, right, which was Cheto Darpana Marjanam, right, and then Anartha Nivriti, and that's the second verse, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Then this chapter, which we haven't done in a while because we've been doing Srimad Bhagavatam with Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadev, Turnad Api Suni Cheno. And we read and heard commentary by Srila Bhaktivinoda Narayan Goswami Maharaj all about humility. The verses that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has chosen to illuminate that quality from different scriptures, right? And we know that in our progression, that if we want to come to Nishta, we have to seriously cultivate this humility, right? And of course, it doesn't end at this stage. It's not like one stage and then you go on to the next. All of these qualities become progressively more complete, more pure, right? Um, Especially humility being the very essence and the very nature of the pure devotee. So, uh, the last verse we heard was an ideal example of sincere humility given in Krishna Karnamrita, right, by Bilvamangala Thakur, it's also known as Leela Suk. Now, we read that verse, and because the next verse is also going to be from that exact same place, right? But the next verse and the one after that are going to relate to the internal meditation of the Jatarati sadhak, that one who is meditating on all of these verses, but in the stage of bhav, right? Or even prem, the perfected soul, right? Uh, how do they feel? What do they see when they hear this verse? So, at any rate, this is about humility, and the verse is Nibuddham Hurdan Jalire Shayache Nirandra Dainyo Natimukta Kantam Dayanidhe Deva Bhavat Kataksham Dakshinya Leshena Sukrinas Chinta Nishincha. O Deva, O ocean of mercy, with folded hands raised to my head, I offer this humble prayer to you. Please, just once, shower me with your merciful sidelong glance. Okay, so this verse also relates to internal meditation, and because these are only the last three verses, I'm going to read the Bhajan Rahasya Vritti, the illumination given by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And we heard it before, but now we're hearing it again. In this verse, Leela Sukh Bilvamangala Thakur prays in a distressed voice, induced by the humility caused by the feelings of separation, viraha, felt by Sri Radha. When Sri Krishna left for Mathura, he was separated from Radha and lived far away. Sudara Pravas, right? There's different kinds of separation. And when Krishna's far away, like Mathura or Dwarka, that is like so extreme, right? So what's that verse? So this verse is in the mood of Radhika. O Deva, O ocean of mercy, with folded hands raised to my head, I humbly offer this prayer to you. Please just once shower me with your merciful sidelong glance. So Krishna was separated from Radha and lived far away. Sudura Pravas. Srimati Radhika, agitated by extreme separation, spoke with great humility to a bumblebee. Now he's going to quote from the 47th chapter of the 10th canto, right? Smarati sa pratirgehan, O bumblebee. Does Aryaputra, that's Krishna indirectly, son of a noble person, right? Remember us? Does Aryaputra remember us? She also asked, upon happily returning from Ujjain, will he come to Vrindavan? Because Krishna, I guess at this time during this prayer, no, he wasn't in Ujjain. Because this prayer was spoken in the presence of Uddhava. Uddhava witnessed this, and this was some months. Krishna had already come back, and he sent Uddhava to Vrindavan in order to give a message to the gopis, to clarify some things, explain his deeper feelings that might have been hidden and misunderstood during the Rasa Leela, and also to give Uddhava a glimpse about the nature of their love, because Krishna's own separation was so strong, and he had no one who he could discuss it with. Right? He couldn't even discuss it with Baladev because Baladev removes himself from Krishna's association when he's with the gopis. There are times when all the gopis and the cowherd boys are engaging together like some holy festival, but in the intimate dealings, the loving exchanges, personal exchanges between Krishna and Radha and the other gopis, Baladev is not there. He won't be there. And he couldn't speak about this with Baladev. It would be inappropriate. But Uddhava was his dearmost friend in Mathura. And he thought, if he can understand something about the love of the gopis, then I can share my feelings, express my feelings, and perhaps he can console me in some way. Because when Krishna was gone, the gopis were plunged into a terrible state, but they had each other, and they could remember Krishna and tell pastimes and share their feelings and thus get some consolation and even some connection, because by speaking of Krishna, he's there. When they're remembering his pastimes, it's as if they're experiencing him again fresher and fresher. But Krishna had no one. So he sent Uddhava, and Uddhava witnessed this. And Radhika saying, upon happily returning from Ujjain, will he come to Vrindavan? Ujjain is where he went to the school of Sandipani Muni. Right? So, when Krishna disappeared from the rasa dance, she cried out. This is from the 30th chapter. Dasyaste kripanaya me sake darshaya sanidhim. O Lord, I am your maidservant. Please show yourself and make me satisfied. This is from the 40th verse of that 30th chapter. Gopi Geet. No, not Gopi Geet. Desirous of this kind of humility, Sri Leela Sukh is saying, O Krishna, make me a traveler on the pathway of your eyes. Please give me service to you. Only by your mercy can I serve in your intimate secret Nikunja Leelas. So he has a very high aspiration, Bilvamangala. He went to Vrindavan, guided personally by Krishna. Right? Interesting, because his life, he was born in a very high-class family, but, we know the story. By witnessing somehow or other inappropriate things or in bad association, he became attracted to a prostitute. Very attractive, powerful young woman named Chintamani, and he fell under that spell and practically gave up everything. All the wealth of his family he was using to satisfy her, spending time, leaving his family at all times, just became completely degraded. But she was becoming inclined towards devotion and worship of the Lord. And then that one rainy night, stormy, terrible storm, when he couldn't bear the separation, he went to her place, and the rain was so powerful that the river was flooded. He couldn't get across. So he saw what he thought was a log, and he jumped in and held onto the log to swim across, and it was a dead body. Right? But still, he didn't care. He had to get across the river, so he used that dead body to float across. How desperate. Then when he came, the door was locked to her courtyard, because who's going to come in this rain? So he said, I'm going to climb up the wall. But it was very slippery and steep, and he couldn't do it. But he saw a vine from a tree, maybe a jackfruit tree, and he grabbed it to pull himself up. But it was a snake. And he saw that, but still, so desperate, he didn't throw it. He grabbed it and he used it, and he climbed over the wall. He fell into the courtyard, injured himself, lying in the mud, and he banged on the door. She came out and saw him and chastised him. Oh, Bilvamangala, you went through so much trouble just to be with me with this bag of, this flesh bag of meat and blood and stool and all, and you've come to see this. If you had even a portion of that same attraction for Krishna, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, your life would be so perfect, so wonderful. Now, because her devotional sentiments had been awakened, and Krishna used her, Paramatma used her and spoke through her. Right? And the message was very powerful, and it went deep into the heart of Bilvamangala. And he realized, he looked at himself, covered in mud, abandoned his family, all the terrible things he'd done, and he felt such remorse and shame that it gave him the impetus. And sometimes that's how it works. We would like to always be inspired by, you know, philosophical considerations, higher motives, always situated in the mode of goodness and happily pursuing our bhakti. But we've been in this material world for so many lifetimes, right? And we have so many different kinds of impressions. And so sometimes, in this life and in previous lives, we've done so many abominable things. And even in our bhakti, it can be up and down, right? Up and down. But even reflecting on the difficult times can be very helpful. Because what does it do? Well, it certainly helps with humility, right? And Bilvamangala now would be absolutely humbled. Oh, look what I've become. Look what I've become. So even in the material world, when people are trying to get cleaned up from bad habits, sometimes they say you have to, what do they say? Hit the bottom. You know, you sink as far as you possibly can, and then you finally realize, oh my God, I've got to change my ways, right? Change my wicked ways, right? So now this was his mood, right? And that instruction was so powerful that it lifted him out of that condition, and he became inspired, and he on his way to Vrindavan. We won't tell that whole story, but he made it to Vrindavan, and there, obviously, apparently from Srila Narayan Maharaj's explanation, this awareness and mood of appreciation of the separation moods of Radha and the gopis were in his heart. Even though he lived he lived 700 years, and he lived before the time of Mahaprabhu, but something there was awakening in his heart. So very fortunate. When we go to Chandra Sarovara near in Govardhan, right? That place of the springtime Ras Leela, Vasant Ras Leela. That is one place of his bhajan there, right? Very beautiful, beautiful place. So, so Radhika's asking, upon happily returning from Ujjain, will he come to Vrindavan? When Krishna disappeared from the Rasa dance, she cried out, Dasyaste Kripanaya me sake darshayasa nidim. O Lord, I am your maidservant. Please show yourself and make me satisfied. Desirous of this kind of humility, Sri Leela Sukha is saying, O Krishna, make me a traveler on the pathway of your eyes. Please give me service to you. Only by your mercy can I serve in your intimate, secret Nikunja Leelas. Upon attaining this service, the jiva becomes forever successful. If I am unqualified for this service, then let me worship you, immersed in these sentiments. I am an offender. Nonetheless, you are an ocean of mercy. I beg you, therefore, do not pay attention to my faults, and please make the creeper of my desire bear fruit. This is my prayer to you. Now that, very encouraging for us, right? That he's praying in this way. I have so many faults, right? And I would, my innermost desire, my strongest desire is to be qualified to serve you and your intimate associates, your gopis, in the Nikunja, Nikunja Leelas, the pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan, right? But I may not be qualified. I'm not qualified. But at least let me worship you in that mood. Let me continue to worship and meditate in my heart on these pastimes and aspire for this. Let my mind be fixed in this way. And reminding, you're an ocean of mercy. So don't pay attention to my faults. Please make the creeper of my desire bear fruit. This is my prayer to you. Right? overlook. And this is possible for all of us, right? This is the mood that we want to pray in, right? Oh, I'm an ocean of fault. Recognize it. Don't hide from it. It's only, Gurudev used to say that don't try to hide your faults from your guru, whatever those faults are. Bad habits, uncontrolled senses, subtle faults of hypocrisy and duplicity, all the different attachments. Don't hide them, but let your heart be bared open and pray to your guru, oh, this is my condition. Please purify me. Don't cast me away. Don't neglect me. And Mahaprabhu came to deliver every living entity from this condition, everyone in the universe, from high to low. So certainly, this is Patit Pavan, the deliverer of the most fallen. So then, Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes another verse from Krishna Karnamrita. The previous one was verse 30. This one is 29. Mai prasadam madurai katakshire vamshi ninandan chararai videhi tvai prasane kimiha parayanas tvaya prasane kimiha parayana. O Krishna, kindly bestow your mercy upon me through your sweet sidelong glance. Oh, sweet sidelong glances, which are accompanied by the sound of your flute. When you are pleased with me, there is no harm if others are not. But if you become displeased, even if others are pleased, what is the use? Oh, that's very beautiful. I only want to please you. I don't care about the opinions of anyone else. Right? Let everyone else neglect me, condemn me, whatever may happen in this material world. I only want to be engaged in your service favorably. That's all I want. And he's addressing Krishna directly as the player of the flute, right? With his beautiful sidelong glances, the same vision that the gopis pray in their Gopi Geet, and how they know Krishna's inner desire to be with them, right? His beautiful glances, his face, right? Their confidential talks, all the different things that they're remembering from him. So Srila Narayana Maharaj says, remembering her previous amorous sports, vilas, with Sri Krishna in the Kunjas, Sri Radhika becomes restless in separation from him. And here again, this is Brahmara Geet, chapter 47. Kvachida pisa katame kinkarinam grinite bhujam agururu sugandham mordyan adasyat kadanu. Will Krishna again place his cooling hand, which is more fragrant than aguru, on our heads? In this viraha pralap, incoherent talk filled with lamentation, which is caused by separation from Krishna, Radhika says, O Prananath, please enter the kunja, casting the same sidelong glance as you did before. What is the nature of this glance? As Krishna plays on his flute, his sidelong glance indicates to Radha to enter the kunja. For this reason, the flute is a giver of bliss. Someone may question, quote, at the time of Rasa Leela, if Murlivardhana's sidelong glance signals to Sri Radha alone, what about the other gopis? The answer is that by the inconceivable potency, Achintya Shakti contained within his flute and sidelong glance, Krishna signals Sri Radha directly and the other gopis indirectly. So they're not feeling neglected. Krishna is showing his love to all of them, right? Appropriate according to their love and their mood and the necessities of the pastime. Radhika says, I am only concerned with your happiness. If all of us gopis become unhappy, but you are happy, then that is my cherished desire. If it pleases you not to appear before me, then even the gopis' endeavors to find you cannot please me. By resolutely performing bhajan with the sentiments described in this third chapter, the stage of ruchi will arise and gradually the sadhak will attain prema. So he's saying that this is the gateway to ruchi. By resolutely performing bhajan with the sentiments described in this third chapter. What sentiments? Chiefly we're hearing about humility and greed. Right? You think when you read these statements of Radha, the desperation, the urgency of the gopis, we can't even imagine what it must be like for them so immersed in love, so completely, intimately connected with Krishna as they're, they're the manifestation of his pleasure potency, right? And of his complete Shakti. They're never separate. Shakti Matur Abedha. But in Leela, they are. They appear to be separated. And so this desperate desire to be with him, when will he be again? Every moment is just unbearable. And yet, we hear from a philosophical perspective that kind of separation is also actually a meeting of an extraordinary kind that gives a pleasure greater than any kind of meeting could. And that's very inconceivable for us. And yet, when that separation reaches a peak and it appears as if they're going to lose their very life, and Krishna does appear, then that meeting and the happiness of that exceeds the pleasure of the separation that they were experiencing. So these two somehow or other nourish each other in the most extraordinary way. Reading this, we want to yearn, we want to have that kind of separation, some kind of separation, right? And by that, and meditating on this greed, this humility, then that will bring us to what is going to come up in the next chapter, right? Which is ruchi. So now, text 19, the mid-morning pastimes, Purvana Leela, which is what this third chapter represents, that time of the day for the qualified sadhak, right? The one who's in Bhav. A description in Govinda Lilamrita. And, it's a very complicated verse. I'm going to read the English. I remember Sri Krishna, who in the forenoon goes to the forest with the cows and his sakas. Sri Nanda, Jashoda, and other Brajbasis follow him for some distance. Restless and hankering to meet with Sri Radha, Krishna arrives at the bank of Radha Kund for their rendezvous, the Abhisar, right, the meeting. I remember Sri Radha, who after taking Krishna's darshan at Nanda Bhavan, returns to her home. Jatila orders her to worship the sun god. Desiring to learn of Sri Krishna's whereabouts, Radha sits and looks down the road, waiting for the return of her Saki, whom she has sent to gather this information. So Jatila, perhaps the most misunderstood personality in Vrindavan, unfairly condemned, actually, because as you read in Chamatkara Chandrika by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, her actions, although they appear so opposed to the meeting and rendezvous and the love of Radha and Krishna, she makes so many arrangements for them to be together. By creating obstacles, she creates the conditions by which these amazing, astonishing pastimes take place. It's quite wonderful, right? And of course, who's going to play the role of Radhika's mother-in-law except someone who is exceptionally qualified, right? And to take on that role, even to be the, condemned by so many people at Vrindavan. I can't understand that mood, that special kind of love. But it's quite wonderful to see this. So she says, "What are you in the house for, daughter-in-law? Now go out and worship the sun god." And that's the pretext by which they can leave the house and go to the Jamuna, go to Govardhan, Radhakund, someplace, and that's where they'll meet Krishna. And so Srila Narayan Maharaj says, in Purvana Leela, after Sri Krishna has eaten, he prepares to go to the forest, wearing the attire of a cowherd boy. And Sri Vrishabhanu Nandini, decorated with cloth and ornaments given by Sri Jashoda, returns to Javat. They meet halfway. Upon seeing Sri Radha, Krishna's peacock feather falls from his head, and the flute slips from his hand. This pastime is described in the following verse from Sri Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi. That's by Prabodhananda Saraswati. Let me get my glasses here. It's very small. Venu karan nipatita skalitam sikandam Bhashtam chapita vasanam vrajaraja. Sri Krishna arrives at the bank of Radhakund for another meeting with Srimati Radhika. Not finding her there, he becomes extremely eager, full of desire and restless. In Javat, meanwhile, Jatila encourages Radhika to go and worship the sun god, Surya Puja. The way in which Radhika performs puja to Krishna at the place where Surya Puja is performed is the wealth that is attained by the performance of bhajan. Right. So sometimes in the presence of Jatila, Krishna disguises himself as a Brahmana boy to assist in this puja. Right? Jatila would say, "Oh, we need a Brahmana for this," and Krishna will come in that guise. Right? And Radhika will know who he is. Jatila will not. In another instance, Krishna may, in his eagerness, come right up to the house in Javat, but disguised as a Brahmin boy, he gains entrance. As Krishna, they would never let him near. And Jatila, seeing him, becomes very happy. Oh, because, when she or her daughter Kutila see Krishna, they also become happy. They're eternal Nitya Siddha devotees in Braj. Krishna's presence enlivens and expands the joy in every heart. But she thinks he's a Brahmin boy, and she thinks, oh, now we can do this puja properly. And she orders her daughter-in-law, give him ingredients, give him, what we should give a Brahmin boy. And she orders Radhika to prepare a plate, with some grains and different things, so that he can go and do his own puja or go back to his home and cook for his family, whatever, right? And so she brings the plate, and she sees him, and he's smiling, and she detects, oh, this is Krishna. And of course, she becomes very thrilled and happy. But her man, which is such a wonderful emotion to behold, because it creates so many different kinds of emotions in her heart and in his heart. And it's something that creates a little distance and obstacle for them to meet. They can't meet there. It's in Javat, right? Jatila's right there. She can't embrace the Brahmin boy. He can't embrace her. And he says something, and she takes the plate, and she just pours it over his head instead of giving it to him in a gracious, direct way. And of course, that gives her great happiness. To her, it's so funny. And Krishna as well. The joy in Radhika's heart brings joy to his heart. And his happiness becomes her happiness. And so all these kinds of pastimes are happening. And they begin at this time. I mean, they're meeting during this. This is the time also when Krishna eats his breakfast, and Radhika is there cooking. Yashoda's asked her to come every morning from Javad, and she comes and cooks. And while Krishna's eating, she and her friends are in a room next to the dining hall, and there's a lattice window that they can peek through the lattice work and see Krishna eating. And Krishna knows they're looking, but they can't really see each other clearly. And so he, according to how he takes the different preparations, he's sending signals to her. Sometimes eating something and making a face as if it's, oh, displeasing, in a very funny way, right? But then he's tasting the remnants, and his moods are imbued in everything that he eats, and he saves a little of everything. And then Kundalata or Dhanishta will take those remnants and give them to Radhika, who shares them with her friends, and Krishna's own moods and his own desires are communicated in their taking those remnants. The extraordinary nature of this Ardhanamrita, the nectar of Krishna's own lips, is there infused in that prasad. Right? This is something that we usually never think about when we're taking prasad. We taste it and appreciate it theoretically, philosophically, but to actually, imagine actually detecting, the love in Radhika's cooking and the love in Krishna's tasting. And then, also by his movements and gestures, he can also communicate in subtle ways. Oh, we can meet later, we can meet here, we can meet there. Sometimes in that way, sometimes secretly conveying a message to one of the messengers like Kundalata or Dhanishta, right? But setting the stage, oh, then later on we'll go to Radhakund or someplace. But Radhakund is a place for the early noon pastimes throughout the later part of the mid-afternoon. It's the longest time. So this is the preparation. Just as the next stage, Ruchi, is our preparation, right? Where we actually begin to taste the holy name of the Lord, and then all the qualities which we're hearing about, humility and eagerness and greed and sweet taste, they become awakened in our heart in a much deeper way. So that is the end of the Tritiya Yam Sadhan, the Purvana Kaliya Bhajan of Sri Bhajan Rahasya. That's chapter 3. Chapter 4 is going to be Chaturtha Yam Sadhan, the Madhyana Kaliya Bhajan, which goes from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Right? So that, and that's going to be for the sadhak, by meditating and taking these lessons. And the verse will be na janam na sundarim kavitam bhaja gadisha kamaye mama janmani shre bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki tvaye. O Jagadish, I don't desire wealth, nor followers, nor do I desire beautiful poetry or knowledge, right? Accomplishments in material knowledge, PhDs and things like that. O Praneshwara, my only desire is to have unalloyed devotion unto your lotus feet, birth after birth. That's what we're going to hear about. So by this performance of our sadhan through these first 3 stages to come to Ruchi, oh, what a marvelous thing. And that's what we're aspiring for. I don't know where we are. I don't know where I am. I know I'm not at Ruchi, but I want to be. So, and I know all you want to be. So we should reflect on everything that we heard in this 3rd chapter, recognition of the necessity to chant with a mood of humility, with a mood of service to Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, right? Casting aside all desire for personal fame, right? Amanina, I don't want it. And being very willing and eager to offer respect to others, manadena, yeah? And in that mood of humility and offering respect, a sense of compassion, right, and willingness to tolerate anything in order to serve others, in order to serve others, like the tree, right? So there we are. We'll stop here. This is a good place to stop, and we'll again pick up tomorrow with this fourth chapter. So offering most grateful obeisance to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sri Bilvamangala Thakur, Shukadev Goswami, Prabodhananda Saraswati Prabhupada, Krishna's Kaviraj, all the great personalities whose writings we're hearing. We offer our obeisance, and all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.